All right, I'm rolling now. And this is dramatic, you're right. It's called Power Step.
Power Step?
Yeah,
Wasn't the
really,
last...
Is that what is the Power Stone?
Wasn't the last track like Power Move? You're just in a powerful mood today.
No, it's the same track. It is called Power Move. My bad.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
This
it's
is
the
just
same track.
So it is not related to Power Stone.
Well, you know what? It's getting me a bit hype, and I am hype because this weekend, guys, it's EVO, world's largest fighting game tournament. Dan and I are actually working that weekend here at theScore eSports.
So we're just going to be very loud. And it's nice that nobody's going to be around.
Thank God, like the CEO and bosses are not in on the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. We're a nightmare.
I actually have the distinction of having Street Fighter be banned at our work computers. Very early on, when I joined theScore eSports, I was told, you have to be quiet. No more Street Fighter at the computers. Stop now. And I just very sheepishly put Dan's stick like into his bag and like went away.
I think from that point, we've been banished to the space in the stairs where the arcade cabinet is.
Oh yeah, we go into like a basement to play. We all just start screaming, play Third Strike. Now, a guy who knows a little bit about Street Fighter is going to join us on the show today.
Always a good transition.
Yeah, always a good transition. You know, you can count on me. You may know him, L.I. Joe, top 8 EVO last year, real American hero. I think he was really in G.I. Joe, fought Cobra.
Yeah, it was absolutely the basis for G.I. Joe.
Yeah,
100% real facts, true journalism.
Because G.I. Joe is predictive. Absolute legend in the fighting game community. We're so excited to have him on the show today. And Ryan, I think without further ado, we should go ahead and bring him on.
Hey, Joe, how's it going?
Hey,
How you doing
what's
today?
up? What's going on?
Oh, not much, man. We're just hanging out. We're really excited to have you. Thank you so much for making time for the Score Sports
Thank
podcast.
you guys. Yeah, of course. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. So, like, I guess we should just get right into it.
Yeah.
EVO is 4 days away.
4 days. So I'm bad at math. It's this weekend.
Yes, Evo starts for pretty much everybody this coming Friday. I think pool will start Friday.
Yeah, pools are on Friday this year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's hype. That's hype. Now you are a real American hero, Joe, because last year you ignited NA with your top 8 performance at EVO. Now I want to talk a little bit about America's. Actually, let's say North America. This podcast is from Canada, after all. We're based in Toronto. I want to talk about North America's chances in Street Fighter V this year. Dan, you were telling me that we actually have a couple guys running around that you think could take it all.
Yeah, I think people are sort of talking about how I know Punk is looking incredible and Dew's been doing well. He won Capcom Cup last year and has been playing very well this year. And
Yep.
Snake Eye's been on a real resurgence over the last few months. I think we are at least from my perspective, we're looking at. No offense to you, obviously you made top 8 last year, but I think we were looking at the most amount of American players who could make top 8, and once you're in top 8 at EVO, it's literally anybody's game, right? That anybody who makes top 8 in EVO can win EVO. So I guess we're sort of wondering how do you feel about like America's shot at finally winning the first mainline Street Fighter title at EVO since 2002? I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much took the names right out of my mouth. Like, if you were going to ask me who had the best shot, you just said all of them. I think Dew, Punk, and I was even after I said those names, I was thinking, I'm like, I said this in my head just now, and I'm like, you know what? Snake Eyes been doing really sick, and then of course you said Snake Eyes is coming up. So I think this is probably the best chance we have, and probably the best chance we're going to have in a while. The thing about the foreign competition is that, especially like Japan and other countries like that, when they lose, they don't want to lose more than once. So if they do bad this year, like the grind for them in 2018 or whatever is going to be off the charts. You know what I mean? That's just them. It's actually like their culture also. You know what I mean? So if we have a shot, it's in 5 days.
Yeah, totally. So, Joe, EVO is obviously huge. It's like a big event, super hype. It's a juggernaut in fighting games, right? It towers over everything else. And like Dan alluded to this at the intro of the show, everybody in the office really likes Street Fighter, and we all like watching it, even if it's not where we all come from. We have League of Legends specialists, we have Dota specialists, we have CSGO specialists. We all love fighting games. And one thing that we've said over and over again is, man, this is really easy to watch. It's complex, it's very deep, but my mom could watch it and she could get it, right? And it's full of very powerful, recognizable branding. Who doesn't know who Ryu is? You know, who hasn't seen Bison? If you don't even know his name, you say, oh, that's the bad guy from Street Fighter, right?
Yeah.
So why isn't Street Fighter at a Dota 2 level, a League of Legends level, a CSGO level?
That's a really good question. I wish I had the correct answer. I'll tell you what I think. I just think that we started. There's a few reasons. I think our grassroots style, I think, sort of held us back a little bit for a while. Like especially when eSports was like really up and coming. We had a hard time branching over into allowing companies, I guess, sort of tame us and tell us what to do or what we can and can't do. You know, because the FGC is so homegrown. You know, it started in arcades. And who told you what to do in the arcade? Absolutely nobody. You know, and then that kind of branched off into the way we had tournaments. They were, not to say that they're not the same way, but they were slightly more like, I want to use the word rowdy, but in a good way. You know, I've never been to a tournament and seen like dudes brawling on the floor over a game. Like, I'm not trying to allude it to that. It was just, there was like a different sense of rawness that came out of the FGC. And I think that's why a lot of companies didn't really want to, I guess, dive into us, so to speak. And then you had a much more marketable group of players, be it League of Legends or Dota or CSGO. And I mean, there's some good comparisons. I mean, I know they're like online memes, but even when you look at this side-by-side comparison of some other communities and esports genres or games or whatever you want to call it, and the fighting games, like it looks like two totally different group of people, you know. So I think that could be one of the main reasons why. I think.
For me, like not big in the FGC. What about just like the learning curve? Like when it comes to something like Dota and League of Legends, it takes like a long investment. You almost feel like it's an initiation into the crew. Like you've really got to know what you're doing and understand what's going on. As you said with Street Fighter, it seems that maybe even like we talked about Hearthstone, some people don't give it the respect that it deserves. Some people think that you can just button mash and that's all there is to it, when really there is something really deep to it.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point because people, like, I mean, even myself, like people at my job kind of know what I do, I guess. They sort of have to. And they kind of be like, oh, yeah, you guys just kind of go like this with the stick in the mouth. I'm like, no, that's not really how you do it. This doesn't really work, you know, but like you said, it takes people to want to learn and be interested in it to kind of understand what's going on, you know, but there is a learning curve, but I don't think the learning curve would be any worse than, say, Dota or League. Maybe the accessibility of League and Dota is much greater, especially when, you know, like the arcade scene kind of dived down and we all found out by the arcade where Street Fighter was and stuff like that. So when everyone had a PC in their home and they can download this game called League of Legends that was free and play on any kind of crappy computer, you know, to still run it, and they get to play with all their friends. So the accessibility, I think, also helped out tremendously too. And obviously the marketing, the way they market their games with everything that they can do with it it's crazy. So, and we need a little bit of that, I think, honestly.
I like that point on accessibility.
Yeah, I actually accessibility, accessibility I think is a big deal, and it's I think like the buzzword that Capcom's throwing around right now, and a lot of fighting game companies are throwing around right now, right? Like everybody wants their game to be accessible, and I'm kind of wondering, you know, where do you kind of, as a guy who plays the game, as a guy who, you know, you run you're in tournaments, you're a name within the community, you know, as somebody in your position, like where do you kind of see the balance of accessibility versus kind of keeping some of the, like you said, that kind of old FGC spirit of kind of being our own thing? Like where does the balance come in?
I think it's really hard to find. I'm not really sure if we found it yet, but a lot of games are doing it now. Like I actually, just before this interview, I was watching the Dragon Ball Z. They had like a little introduction thing about the game and how to play it. And one of the main things they said, they want to make the game more accessible to people who may have liked the show or the series and never really played a fighting game before. So they want you to be able to do cool things, but without really having all the years worth of knowledge and tech, I guess, inside your head to be able to do them. But it is a fine line because it makes some of the guys that have been playing for like 20 years, I don't want to say irrelevant, but it's kind of like, all right, you know, like we put all this time in, but, you know, these guys can do it off the bat. Now, that's not really fair to say. Maybe some people just learn quicker than others. So I don't really think that's necessarily a justifiable argument per se. But I do think the game has to have some sort of depth in order to keep it alive and going. And I think that's I don't want to say it's a problem, but that's a lot of some of the problem that people have with Street Fighter V. But when you really look at it, the people that are really good at the game, and they've been really good at Street Fighter. It's not like there's a guy that's in the up and coming ranks that's literally doing some like easy mode combo or picking some easy mode character that was made accessible and beating everybody. No, it's really the same 10, 15 players in America that are still doing the same thing they did in 4.
And I'll tell you what, anybody who thinks you can button mash your way to victory has not played ranked on Street Fighter V in any recent timeline.
Yeah, it doesn't really work.
No, not really. Speaking of DBZ Fighters, okay, this is a game, or it's Dragon Ball Fighters with a Z, right?
Yeah.
It's not the best
Yeah,
name in the world.
Dragon Ball Fighter Z, right? Or Z Fighter? I forgot what it is.
Fighter Z, I think.
Oh, you
Yeah,
actually
Dragon
have to say the Z?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Well, whatever the name is, everybody is like so hyped about it. And
Yeah.
you were just saying like, oh, they want to make it accessible for people who are fans of the game, or sorry, the show. I dabble in fighting games, but I was obsessed with Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid. So I'm on the hype train for this. I'm ready for it. I know I've been following you on Twitter actually, and you were saying that you never actually watched the show, and now you're going back.
I was trying to see, because obviously I stream a little bit, as you can see my pretty green screen right here.
Oh, yeah.
So I was trying to actually do a kind of do like a series where people would watch Dragon Ball Z with me live on Twitch. I thought it'd be cool because not a lot of people have the gift of being surprised anymore. Like, I don't know what happens in the show. You know what I
Right,
mean? And
right.
people are like, "Oh my God, what do you mean you don't know?" So in order, I love it too. Like when I watch, for instance, I love Dark Souls. When I watch people that don't know Dark Souls play Dark Souls, it's like the coolest thing in the world to me, because I wish I had that fresh experience. So in order for someone to experience someone else's experience of this brand new, oh my God, what is all this stuff like? It's exciting. So I was trying to see if I could do something like that, but unfortunately, you're not allowed to do it on Twitch. But I thought that would have been pretty cool, because again, I don't know what the hell's going on, and obviously, I like fighting games, and I played DFBZ, whatever. I played it at E3, and I was digging it. You know what I mean? So I was like, all right, like I'm upset that I don't get the same tick that other people get. You know what I mean? Like, people are saying, "Oh my God, he did that in the show," and I'm like, I don't know what happened in the show. So I get slightly upset. I'm jealous of the fact that people can relate on that intimate level, I guess. You know what I mean? So I wanted that. That's why I was like, maybe I was going to go back and watch the show, but I don't know now. I'm not
Well,
sure.
hey man, even if you can't do it on Twitch, I highly recommend you watch the show,
Yeah.
because it is hype. There's only 10,000 episodes to get through, something like that.
Though, speaking of having a bunch of stuff, and speaking of Dragon Ball Fighters, I'm actually super interested in. A lot of people are kind of throwing around the terminology that we're in another like FGC golden age, sort of like where we were in like 2008, 2009, where like every like few months we're getting another game, right? We just got Tekken, we've got the Dragon Ball
Yep.
game on the horizon, Guilty Gear just got another version, their KOF is getting updates all the time.
Yep.
I'm kind of wondering, I don't know how many of them how many other fighting games you necessarily play, but what are your hopes for kind of like what we're seeing right now with how many fighting games we're getting? Like, do you like how many we're seeing, and do you like what we're getting out of those games?
Oh yeah, I mean, I am a huge excuse me. I'm a huge fighting game fan. Like I buy every game no matter what. And that's like, it kind of hurts me a little bit because I have a small attention span, especially when something new comes out. Like I'm supposed to be practicing Street Fighter, and I'm like, all right, maybe I'll play some Tekken. And then Injustice, maybe I'll play some Injustice too. My other homie plays Guilty Gear, so come over, we'll play Guilty Gear. So like, I just really enjoy fighting games, and just to see all these games coming out and having good vibes, like people are digging a Guilty Gear, people are absolutely digging Tekken. It's great. I know that the KOF guys are loving the updates and stuff like that. Like DBZ is going to be crazy. The whole Injustice 2 and the NRS community is going crazy for their game too. So it's really cool to see all the intricate parts of the FGC like growing together. I mean, I wish every game could be on the main stage like Street Fighter V and have all this hype and have a E-League thing go on. You know what I mean? Like, it's really cool. And Injustice just got an E-League announcement. So like, it's all really, really good stuff. I feel anything. It doesn't have to be Street Fighter. It can be Marvel. It could be Tekken. It can be whatever. But as long as all that stuff is getting boosted, as long as the FGC is getting boosted, I think it's a win for everybody. Because then someone could watch Tekken and be like, I like what's going on here. But what is this like game where these guys are jumping around in air dashing? Oh, that's called Guilty Gear. And, vice versa. I kind of like Street Fighter, but so I started looking up fighting games, and I kind of like the way this game looks with more realistic. Oh, that's called Tekken. So I feel like as long as people can see it, they're already like their foot's in the door. And then they get this plethora of games to pick of whatever kind of jives with them. So it's cool. It's all good stuff.
Yeah, I totally relate to the attention span with fighting games. I was in Japan a few months ago, and I was playing in arcades. Like, oh man, I love Tekken 7. I got to keep trying this. And I get back here, and it's like, oh no, Guilty Gear just came out. I got to get into that. But you mentioning the E-League, obviously, I'm kind of interested, kind of jumping off the thing we asked about earlier with like, why aren't fighting games necessarily bigger? Street Fighter was on E-League, and now we've got Injustice coming onto E-League. They seem really interested in doing more fighting game stuff. They're going to the community, and they seem to interact well.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like, do you think that E-League kind of improved, let's say, like, fighting games' mainstream profile? Do you think that it's something that kind of helps for the future of growing this scene and making it more viable for people to try to turn it into something they want to do for a living?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's given the game and the company more exposure, and the player and the commentators, and it's really helping out the whole circle that kind of makes the FGC. And again, it gives people a chance to watch it, and the things they do in the show, like they had Rip like explaining what's going on, or you know what I mean, like like they would stop the game and kind of explain what's happening. Here's what's going on, or Z would do it. Like all that stuff is good because it makes people understand that wow, these guys are really. They're not just pressing buttons. Like there's all these other intricate sub-levels of meta and all this other kinds of crap going on in the middle of the match. And the more people realize that, I think that also helps the overall growth and the exposure of the game in a positive light as well. But all that stuff is good, man. How could it hurt? Unless it was a disaster, which it wasn't. When we were there, they even said that the numbers might not have been great as far as what they had, but the amount of new people watching was tremendous, they said, and it always grew. So, I mean, it had to do something good if they have Injustice on it. If it was really that bad, they would have just been like, all right, we did Street Fighter 5, it didn't work, and we're done. But now Injustice is there. So it couldn't have been that bad.
Right. Now you're saying like it can only benefit the community, which is a great attitude, I think. But you also said earlier that the FGC's grassroots roots kind of have maybe held it back a little bit in the past. Do you think that there is a segment of the community that is resistant in a negative way to things like E-League, to things like Evo being on ESPN2?
I mean, I think there might be a small group of people that feel that way. I'm not sure why. Like I don't get the. All right, well, I'll be honest. Back in the day, I think maybe I might have been one of the people to be like, wait, we don't need to do this. You know what I mean? Like I'm not sure if this is the way we want to go. But when you really pull yourself back and look at the world change and look at gaming change in general, like this is the way we're supposed to go. Like we're supposed to walk this path. Like why would we not go down this road? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. And of course I've heard people like, oh yeah, like this isn't what it's about this. But the thing is, it's always going to be about that because it's always going to be, people are always going to be in this room right here playing, yelling, screaming, cursing, getting into silly arguments. We're always going to go to our local places and play and mash on buttons and get a little crazy. Like we still have, as long as we keep it within ourselves, I think we'll be okay. Like we'll always have that slight bit of what we brought with us from the grassroots, and as long as we don't lose that within ourselves, I think we'll be okay.
Right. Don't lose what got you to the dance, kind of thing.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. Do you think that maybe part of the issue is that FGC is obviously full of single-player esports, and maybe that's more difficult for people to invest in or to see the value in? Because we have like Liquid Knuckle Dew. Does anyone really think of Liquid with Knuckle Dew? Like I'm not sure. I'm not sure I do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I agree. That's something. You know what? We were this kind of. I don't want to branch too far off topic, but when For Honor came out, there was a huge discussion because I actually enjoyed For Honor when it came out. there was a huge discussion about how to play the game, like on a competitive scene and make it entertaining. And I'm like, the game is clearly built for. There was a mode where it was 4v4, I think, or 5v5. I don't even remember. But I'm like, clearly this is the way the game is meant to be built. Like, you have a lot of opportunity for more interaction, for more stuff to happen, for more stories to be created when you have 3 or 4 people playing against 3 or 4 people. You know, it's just people. You know, the more interaction you get, the more can happen, the more can come out of it, the more options you have in front of you. So I do think that slightly hurts it a little bit. It might help hold it back, because again, if I want to rooting for one person is cool, but being able to root for 6 of the same people, like, you know, no, I really want this team to win. Like, I want this team. It just feels better, I guess, than saying, oh, you know, like, I want this one particular guy to win. I mean, it does work in the sense of when you're looking at, you know, like mixed martial arts or boxing and stuff like that. People root for the person. I get it, but I'm just not. I think the team aspect, especially in our early stages, I think it would have helped us a little bit more, and even help us now. But it's just really hard to cement that, you know what I mean, to create the team format. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
Another interesting angle that Joe mentioned there is about the boxers, the fighters that people get behind. And I mean, they don't have the longevity in terms of like a brand recognition, like the Toronto Maple Leafs that have been around for 50 years that people always get behind. And maybe this is just the beginning, just like UFC started off with a few names that people didn't know, but as they stayed with it and they got more mainstream, I mean, more and more people came to their aid and came to support their fan base. But again, just like right now Wimbledon's going on, when it comes to singles, it is harder to have people root for that person, because that is a person. That's not a brand that's going to stick around and pass through the generation.
Sorry.
Oh, not at all. Like, this is interesting that you guys are saying this. Like, now I don't want to get too off topic, but like, I actually find it easier to root for one person myself. You know, I like team sports and I like team esports, but like, man, it is sick to watch Snake Eyes throughout an entire set. Oh God, you know, watch every single jab and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, I find I'm able to latch on to the man or the woman easier than I am to latch onto the brand.
I would definitely say in the short term, and especially like L.I. Joe, like that famous thing when you made top 8 in Evo, like that's a story that's visceral. That's a crazy thing that happens for one person. You get behind that, but that's very short lived. You're looking at it in a small window over a year, couple years that you're following this guy. And just like in UFC, when some people start dropping off, I stopped becoming a fan because there's too many bodies in there, people I didn't care about. But in a game like Street Fighter, in the FGC, you no longer are held back by your physical body. I mean, there's no reason why L.I. Joe couldn't be an Evo champion when he's 60. Imagine the stories then and how many fans you could build over that lifetime and still being good at that game.
And right, I think that's the nice thing about the FGC is that we have those names, right? You know, Alex Vai, he's not 60, but the guy's still playing, he's still doing well. You know, I've been a Justin Wong fan ever since the first time I saw him play Marvel 2. There are guys that that I have grown up watching because I've played fighting games for since I was really young. But I definitely think that kind of branding is harder for people who are just coming into the space to get involved. And I think that like Joe was talking about before, with accessibility being about bringing new eyes in, I think that maybe that we have that discussion, I feel like every year or something, where somebody brings up like, oh man, team tournaments were so cool. Like, why don't we set some time for team tournaments? And oftentimes it's because tournaments have either CPT stuff or other time constraints. It's difficult to find the space for it. And I guess I'm kind of, to turn this into an actual question for Joe, do you think that there is a place for, the 3v3, the 5v5 teams tournaments to come back? Those were always fun events, and I feel like we don't see them as much at tournaments anymore.
So fun.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes with the amount of games we have now and how popular some of the other games are, that honestly, we only have X amount of time in a day to make some things happen. You know what I mean? So we kind of got to, I don't want to say it like this, but you got to sort of trim the fat from somewhere. You know what I mean? So we lost some of that. I do agree. On the counter argument, one of the hypest tournaments in Japan is actually the Third Strike Co-op Cup, where it's 5v5. Yep. And it's 5v5. You know what I mean? It's just the amount of players, but that game is like a legacy over there. Like, they had I forgot the amount of people. It was some dumb number of teams, and it's 5 people a team. It was like some crazy number of players
There's like
that are
hundreds
going.
of players, yeah.
Yeah, that are going there to play. Freaking, how old is the game? 99. The game came out in 99. You know, it's a pretty old game. You know, but there's still 5 guys on a team, and there had to be. I want to say there was almost well over 50 teams. I think it's a lot of guys. You know what I mean? And it's hype as hell, man. One of the best tournaments I've ever watched every single year, Co-op Cup. So I think it's possible, but I'm just not sure if we are ready to kind of bring it to that level. I think once people become more familiar with the players in the scene, maybe we can do something like that. I mean, you know, we've tried it where there was like the East versus West Coast, and you know, there's always this next level battle circuit versus Wednesday night fights thing that goes on. Like, yeah, it's cool, but it just doesn't have the umph, I think. You know what I mean? I think we have to focus on getting everything up and off the ground, and then maybe we'd be able to create that. Or once players are solidified, let's say you have EG. Now we have EG versus Echo Fox, you know, but you need to create those players first, you know?
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. Now, Joe, talking to you right now, if I'm not incorrect, we kind of just caught you right after work. You've got a full-time job. You've got a career, tons of stuff going on, and you cannot go to every single weekend tournament. You can't do that circuit. Very few people can. In fact, the FGC, most people you're going to see on stream are holding down, you know, jobs that don't involve using a stick. Mm-hmm. How do you actually do that? How exactly do you top 8 Evo with a career?
Yeah, it was tough. Last year, the grind that we had, man, was almost unlike anything I've ever done in my life as far as gaming wise. Like, I remember when Street Fighter V was coming out, and I used to look. This is a true story. I used to look at the logo. Swear to God. I used to look at the logo that just says, like, if I saw it in a magazine, or like I saw a picture of it somewhere, or I was walking by the mall and I saw it like on a GameStop wall, I would look at the logo and be like, I'm going to be really good in this game. And I would just walk away. I'm not kidding. It was just, like, I would feel it in my chest, like in my heart. That was like, I haven't felt that in a really, really long time. But I had the drive to be that good. And unfortunately, it wasn't just me. It was the entire scene over here in LI. Like, we all wanted to play. We all wanted to be good. We try. Like, I would work, come home, we would play. I would work, come home, we would go to a tournament Friday. We would go to a tournament Sunday. I would work Monday. They'd be back at my house. We'd get together on Thursday. Like, it was this whole, like, a sub-community effort, honestly, for everyone to get good at the game. And when the game first dropped, like, it was me and a couple other people. All over here, like Tri-State, we were really, really, really good. Like, it never failed. We were always top 8s in every tournament that we went to, you know. But it was definitely tough. I spent a lot of time playing, but it was worth it. You know what I mean? It was worth it. Unfortunately, right after Evo, and this is kind of why, like, I haven't been around much during the Season 2 days and stuff like that. Right after Evo, I got promoted at my job, like, right after. So then I had to start working on Saturday. So now that I'm working on Saturday, and tournaments usually start Friday or Saturday, it was kind of like a crapshoot if I'd be able to get to the tournament. Like, if I would sign up for Combo Breaker, and Combo Breaker has my pool on a Saturday, and it's Saturday morning, I'm screwed. You know what I mean? I can't go. So it's really, really hard to balance. And honestly, it's only gotten slightly difficult within the past, like, 6 months or so. And there's actually some more changes at my job coming within, like, the next month or so that's going to change my lifestyle even more. So yeah, it's just, again, I'm trying my best. You know, I'm going to try my best this weekend and for whatever other game that comes out. But it's really, really hard to stay up there, man, especially when you got the guys that are so damn good and you know that this is what they – and look, God bless them. This is what they do for a living. I wish, you know what I mean? I wish. But the guys that can do it for a living, that's why you're so – that's – you know what I mean? Like, Michael Jordan didn't play basketball, you know, every other day. Trust me.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of, like, you know, jobs and careers and stuff like that, like, yeah, for sure. You know, at some point, you're not going to be the best in the world when you have all of these other outside commitments. Now, you were talent on E-League's broadcast. You were on their desk. You were an analyst. Would you consider transitioning your career in the FGC, I mean, to more of a sort of on-camera talent type of thing than a player?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if I'm never going to not have the competitive drive.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
the one thing I'm slightly afraid of. Like, I kind of want to be in the mix. You know what I mean? Like, especially with the new games coming out. Like when Marvel comes out, like I'm trying to drop these fools in Marvel. Like, I'm trying to be good at DBZ when DBZ FQRSTUV comes out, whatever you want to call it. Like I want to be good in these games, but would I mind doing that? I would definitely not mind. Like I had fun. Honestly, I don't like commentating.
Okay.
People have asked me to commentate, and I'm just not really comfortable with it. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I could do anything else. I can be on stage at Evo. I could talk to a crowd of thousands of people, but put me in front of a computer screen and make me tell you and analyze a match. I'm just not good at it. Makes me very uncomfortable still. But again, I wouldn't mind doing some of that stuff as long as I could still somewhat be competitive. I mean, maybe if I do just eventually suck and I can't play at all, maybe I'll push myself to do a little bit of that. But for now, I still feel like I have the skill and the competitive drive where I can kind of hang for a little longer.
So kind of moving towards, I think, a couple of our last questions. I want to kind of jump ahead talking about this weekend, but moving aside from competitive for just a second, obviously Street Fighter is still the biggest game at EVO. It's still, I think, the biggest game at the FGC at the moment. But I kind of want to talk about, a lot of people have had some complaints with what Season 2 has been like, what Season 2.5 has been like. Capcom's going to have a panel. They're going to make announcements. I want to know, like, what do you think of where the game's at right now, and what would you kind of want to hear from Capcom? Like, what would be the ideal thing to hear about, plans for the future of Street Fighter V?
Honestly, I like Street Fighter V, and I've said it probably since the first day I played the game. I was like, I like the game. I just feel like it just needs something slightly more. And this was when I played it at E3 in 15 or something like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I think the game is pretty cool. I do like a lot of the characters. I like what they did with previous characters. Like, I think this is the coolest version of Bison that's ever been made. And Bison's been around since 89 or something like that. So I do think they have some good things going on for the game. I just think the lack of communication within the community, like, really hurts that. Hurts the company and hurts Street Fighter. When you have companies like, NRS is very supportive, and not that Capcom's not supportive. I guess NRS is more comfortable making these other decisions, but it's really tough when you're dealing with a Japanese style company. Like, I feel like some people don't really understand, like, they yell at Combo Fiend or they yell at, like, game devs. You guys realize it has absolutely zero to do with them, right? Like, that's their job. Someone says, okay, we can talk about A, B, C, and D, and they do it. You know what I mean? It's not that they don't want to. I'm sure they have information for the game. They know every character that's coming out. They know the balance changes that are coming, but it's not really up to them to be able to disclose the information. And again, being mainly a Japanese rooted company, there's always this kind of like back and forth between Capcom America and Capcom Japan. So I do think them saying, guys, we need to be more supportive in the community. We need to talk a little bit more. We need to say, hey guys, here's what's going on. You're going to have this here. You're going to have this there. I think that would help. As far as the overall game goes, I think the game needs a little bit more of a defensive mechanic, because I feel like everything is very, very hold forward, push forward, get the guy in a corner, press some buttons. You're going to get a crush counter. Like, there's a lot of offense, very offensive, very in your face. V reversal, again, while V reversal is a defensive mechanic, I don't think it's what the game necessarily needs at this point. It needs a little bit more on the defensive side, because there's so much offense to the game. So it needs to have something that kind of slows it down a little bit. And they've worked on it. They kind of changed the way throws work, especially in the mid screen, so you can't keep the pressure up after a throw. Like, they have thought about it, but I think they still need slightly more.
Yeah, I think
and Sagat.
Oh yeah, please.
Oh yeah, gotta throw that one in there.
I mean, if we're throwing out characters, I just want Sakura is all I really need. But yeah, I think at least I can speak for myself, and I think Colin and I have had the conversation before. Like, Street Fighter V is a pretty great game. It needs a little bit. It needs a little bit more love, and definitely a little bit of community talk, hopefully. So. Colin, you look like you wanted to say something there.
I just wanted to ask the question that I always hit people with, which, everyone hates being asked, which is predictions, right? There's a lot of people who entered EVO, but I'm just wondering, Joe, if you can give me your thoughts on who is, in Street Fighter at least, top 8 material, maybe who's going to be in the grand finals.
I think I think you have Do. Honestly, a lot of it depends on your bracket. Like Evo, everybody knows the tournament is so big. You know, for instance, last year, who did I lose to? I lost to Yukadon and Fudo. What if Fudo was in my pool in the morning?
Right.
I would have lost. You know, well, I don't want to say I would have, but my chance of getting top 8 would have been extremely smaller than what they were. You know what I mean? So like it really depends on who you run into at that particular time, and that's just a thing that even everybody on the Evo floor talks about. Like, what does my path look like? So when you check Twitter, you see people say, "What does my road look like? Who's in my pool? Who do I fight coming out of it?" Because honestly, it does play a lot. You know, there's five. Well, last year there was 5,000 people. Obviously, I didn't play 5,000 people. And do I think I was actually top 8 out of those 5,000? No, I don't. I really don't. I just knew at that particular time that there's no one in this room that I can't beat 2 games. Even if they're better than me, I can beat you 2 games. And that was my whole mentality. I'm sorry, I'm getting on a tangent. Excuse me.
It's all right.
But I think getting, you know, some of the bracket luck, which is a real thing, I think Do will do amazing. I think Punk will do amazing. I'm pretty sure Snake Eyes will do amazing. I hope Justin does well. You know, I always like seeing Justin do well. I'm trying to think who else. I actually like. I'm sure Champ will do great. I'm trying to think. I'm sure Tokido will do good. I hope Nemo does really well. And I think Fudo. Haitane. Sorry, I'm just like rattling names now.
This is good, man.
But that's like, you know, when I think of who the best players are in the world, those are the people. You know, that's them.
I'm praying for Tokido, man. I'm praying for Tokido.
Yeah, I love Tokido's my favorite player in the world, dude. Like, just watching that guy play blows my mind. Listen to him talk is even crazier. I'm like, wow, how did he just?
He's like a super villain sometimes.
I love it.
So sick.
Guy's the best.
Now, before we do let you go, Joe, is there anything that you want to say that you want to touch on that we didn't get a chance to, or any shout outs you want to give, anything like that?
No, you know, I just want to thank you guys. I do want to say make sure people support, you know, however they can. Don't listen to anybody. Play the game yourself. If you don't like the game, you don't like it. Trust me, Marvel Infinite is not that bad of a game, I swear to God. You know, you really just have to take things into your own hands and try them yourself. No, you really don't let the internet change you. Don't listen to what people say on Twitter. You know, if you like a game, play it, dude. It doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks. I play crappy games all day. No one really likes, but I play them because I enjoy them, and I think that's important, that people still have to enjoy what they do. They can't listen to, you know, the fad of hating on a game or hating on a company or hating this or hoping games fail. Like, that's the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But no, just, you know, shout outs to One Love to the whole FGC, you know, all the supporters, you guys, all the homies here in Long Island, and, you know, friends, family, all that kind of stuff. And I will definitely, my plane leaves at 5 o'clock on Wednesday, and then I will be in Las Vegas.
Ooh, right on. Well said, man. Well said. Well, once again, thank you so much for making time for us. It was a real pleasure.
Yeah, of course, guys. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man, and good luck in the pools.
Thank you, man.
All right, guys. Well, that was a great conversation, I thought. He brought up a lot of interesting points. I was particularly interested in what he was saying about, like, the fact that it's a single player game and it's like more difficult to latch on to, because like I always thought it was like the opposite, but like I must be an anomaly. Like I because you guys were saying the same thing, and the proof is in the pudding, right? Look at all the team esports, how big they are, and then you look at some of the solo esports, you know, FGC, Hearthstone, et cetera, and they're not quite as big.
Absolutely, I definitely think that at least the esports community is trained for team games. Even StarCraft is played as a team game, right? I will say, I didn't want to say it there, but maybe not to embarrass Joe. If you want more of Joe in your life, you can go to East Coast Throwdown. It is a CPT tournament.
There you go. You
got plenty of fighting games, plenty of love out there, and it's an East Coast tournament, and I like supporting East Coast tournaments. I won't be there, but I like supporting East Coast tournaments.
Okay. Well, I'm just happy to hear that everybody's praying for Tokido, that Akuma's health doesn't melt.
I'm praying for Bonchan.
You play with Bonchan?
I really like Bonchan's play this year. I think Bonchan is a spectacular player who I love watching.
Yeah, you talk a lot about him.
He's a scientist, man.
75% of my prayers are going to Tokido.
So I want to interrupt you for a moment because this is how I did it. And I think this is how you should do it.
Okay.
Last year at Evo, I got on camera. I said that my heart always goes for Daigo, my brain always goes for Tokido, but my wallet was picking Infiltration.
Okay.
Where do you sit?
I mean, I am all heart
You're
all
all
the
heart,
time,
100%
to be
heart.
real with you. So my heart is partially with Tokido, and then the other part is with Fudo, probably.
All right.
Those guys have it unlocked for me.
My heart is always with Daigo, my brain is with Bonchan, and my wallet is on Punk.
I love it. All right, guys. With that, we are all out of time on the theScore Esports podcast. Don't forget, we do this every week. Sometimes we do it twice a week. Sometimes we do it 4 times a week. That did happen once.
Colin is a workhorse.
That's right. I just live in this room.
You sleep under the desk.
What's that?
You sleep under the desk.
Yes, I'm
I've
George.
seen
I'm
it.
the George Costanza of theScore Esports.
Yeah, and speaking of the 30 sports, we'd all like to thank you all so much for listening.
Yeah, absolutely. For Dan and for Ryan, I'm Colin McNeil saying until next time, GG. No re.